Welcome back to the Packet Lab. Today we're going to be discussing one-step lockdown with the Cisco Security Device Manager. Those of you who viewed the Cisco Auto Secure video will be familiar with this slide. Auto Secure and Cisco one-step lockdown are basically brothers from another mother. They do their jobs slightly differently, but they both strive to fulfill the same functionality, which is router hardening. Speaking of router hardening is the process of turning off all unnecessary services on a device to prevent attacks or exploits. Hardening is not specific to routers or Cisco or networking in general. You can harden an application, you can harden a server. It basically comes down to the mantra, if you're not using it, shut it off. In our case, there's going to be two basic steps to hardening the router. The first step is to admin shut any unused router interfaces. This is something that's overlooked quite a bit. If you're not using an interface, make sure that it's shut down. It's closing a door that you don't need to have open. What the Cisco SDM one-step lockdown and its brother Auto Secure strive to do is the second step, which is to disable any unused services. Cisco devices are capable of running a grip of different services, and they do ship with some of these services enabled. Now, depending on how your network is set up, you may not want these enabled. And again, it comes back to, if you're not using it, shut it down. Or if you have a service that's enabled and you have no use for it, shut it down, because there's some monkey out there that's looking to exploit openings in your network, and this is a way to make the job harder for them. So the two candidates for automatically hardening your router are Auto Secure and Cisco SDM one-step lockdown, and obviously we're going to be looking at one-step lockdown today. I do have a Packet Lab video that is devoted to Auto Secure. I would highly suggest that you take a look at that as well. Auto Secure is issued from the command line. It's a single command. It's got some dialogue that goes with it, so there is more than just typing Auto Secure and you're done. I mentioned that I would watch both this video and the Auto Secure video. Do that especially if you are studying for the CCNA security exam, because both of those technologies will be present on that exam. And also for real world, if you're interested in Auto Secure or one-step lockdown and you want to find out which one's a better fit for you, watch both videos. Plus you get to hear my deep, throaty, beautiful voice. So hey, win-win. There are some differences between these two methods, some significant, some insignificant. Auto Secure is invoked from the CLI, whereas SDM one-step, obviously with the name including SDM, you will have to have the Security Device Manager enabled and connected to your router. And for those that don't know, Cisco SDM is a front-end GUI. It's an application basically that connects to your router through either HTTP or HTTPS, depending on which method you choose. And like I said, it's a GUI. It comes with a number of wizards in there, and basically one-step lockdown is just a wizard. It's amazingly simple, as we'll see in just a few minutes here, but one of the big differences between this and Auto Secure is that you do have to do some initial configuration on the router, simply to set up the ability for SDM to access that router, and you also have to install SDM, obviously. There's a little more prep to it, but basically it comes down to, once you've done that prep, you just click a button and you're done. This slide is just showing you the Cisco, basically the definition of the function for one-step router lockdown, which is simplifies firewall and Cisco iOS software configuration without requiring expertise about security or iOS software. And that's very true. As you can see here, one-step lockdown really is just exactly what it says. It's one step. You click on the button that says one-step lockdown, and I think you have one more chance to say yay or nay. I'm not sure. We'll definitely take a look at that in the SDM, and you're done. It's going to configure your router. So in the Cisco Security Device Manager, how you get to the one-step lockdown, and we'll see this in detail when we get on the SDM, is you're going to go to Configure button on the top. It's got the little gears, not that hard. And then on the left-hand side here, go down to Security Audit. That's probably the trickiest part, is it doesn't say one-step lockdown from there. But you go into Security Audit and you have the option of Security Audit, obviously. And then below that is where your one-step lockdown is located. And the caveat with this is an all or nothing solution. If you choose to institute this, it will configure your router with a set of best practice security commands. And you can supposedly roll the changes back. This SDM warning that will pop up anytime you hit that one-step lockdown button will tell you that you can, roll this back. Not quite true. And it does say here, some, and that some is very important. We'll see that later. but it's not as complete of a rollback as I've seen some documentation state. I've seen documentation just say that, go back into, basically the step one. Go ahead and undo security configurations and it will wipe out everything that's been done to your router. That is not true. So before you do this, know that the rollback is not as complete as some sources might tell you. As always, and like I mentioned in the auto secure video, what you can do is you can implement this feature. It will go ahead and it will change your running configuration. So what you want to do before you implement this feature is be sure to write your current running configuration to your startup configuration. So this gives you the option of doing a, well, I would call it a hard rollback of this feature. So if you implement this feature and it changes your running configuration and you're like, wow, this is not what I signed up for, what you can do is reload your device and it will boot into that startup configuration, which contains the pre-one-step lockdown config. So keep that in mind. Don't be hasty with writing this after you've implemented it. And as I stated earlier, one-step router lockdown does send a lot of configuration to your device. As you can see here, as I scroll down to the bottom, 31 different, that's not commands, that's 31 different things that it's going to alter. And here you can see it's going to send 54 commands. When working with the Cisco SDM, I do strongly suggest that you go into the preferences and that you select the preference that says preview the commands before sending them to the router. I will harp on that throughout each and every SDM video. In this case, it shows you what the commands are, but it also gives you one last option to stop this. So if you were to click deliver, and we'll see this in the SDM, if you were to click deliver, it's going to send those and be done. If you have that option checked, you will actually get another pop-up box after this showing you what it's about to send to your router and saying, hey, do you really want me to send this? Okay, this slide is just showing that I wasn't lying about the amount of configuration that it sends. This is on the CLI of the router, and it's showing the difference between the basic running configuration that was on there prior to one-step lockdown being configured. And you can see there's a ton of changes here. I didn't even put them all on here because it would have taken a couple of slides, but I guess just driving home the point that this does do a lot of configuration. Okay, so we've got two options for our quick and dirty hardening, and wow, that just sounds dirty, filthy nasty. So I guess the big question is, which one should we use? Well, that choice is going to depend on your level of comfort as well as your network. If I had to make a choice between the two of them, I would probably pick auto secure simply because you get a little bit more input into the configuration, and it does do a few things that one-step lockdown does not do, which you'll see in the next slide. Let's go over what some of the differences are here. One-step lockdown does not allow you to specify which portions of the router you want to lock down. That's what I was just talking about with auto secure, giving you a little bit more control over what's going to be locked down on your router. It's not a ton. You get to choose, the management plane, forwarding plane. It gives you this auto secure dialog, which lets you give some feedback and configure some options. One-step lockdown is exactly what it says, one step. There's no input, feedback. There's a little bit with the pop-up telling you what it's about to do, but it's not asking you for any parameters. It's just going to do its thing, and it's going to do it how it wants to. So keep that in mind. One-step lockdown, as I mentioned earlier, requires Cisco SDM to implement. This means that you're going to have to configure HTTP or HTTPS. I've got preferred in there. Yeah, anytime you have a choice between a non-secured and a secured protocol, go ahead and choose the secured protocol. Access to your router, there's a couple steps with that. There is another video in the packetlab that goes through the process of setting up SDM from soup to nuts and what you have to do on the router. Basically, it's enable HTTPS server and then configure a username password combination on the router that has privilege level 15.